So, for my scene analysis on lighting and color, I picked my favorite movie of all time, Goodfellas, directed by Martin Scorsese. This film depicts the true story of Henry Hill, an American gangster and one of the most famous rats in history. In the beginning of the film, when we're introduced to a young Henry Hill, the lighting is much brighter than in the rest of the film. They use traditional 3 point lighting, and contrast is not as high comparative to when Henry's grown up. At the beginning of the film, Henry still has goals and aspirations. He still sees the taxi stand and all the gangsters in his neighborhood as a kid would see them, and he's fascinated by them. So even though these men were gangsters, Henry was naive and innocent, and he wanted to be like them. So the lighting reflects that by being bright with minimal shadows. Uh, in this scene, his boss yells at him for wasting clean aprons, but again, Henry's innocent, and the lighting expresses that. So even when someone's bleeding out in front of the shop, uh, the tone created by the lighting isn't that serious compared to uh, how dark it gets when he's older. Um, Once Henry becomes a part of the family, the lighting takes a turn to reflect the much more serious game that Henry's involved in now. A lot of this film uses low key lighting for indoor environments, and we frequently see uh, Henry and his fellow gangsters in dimly lit bars and restaurants. This low key lighting helps to create a dark atmosphere with lots of deep shadows and high contrast. And the lighting creating this dark atmosphere perfectly reflects the gritty and ruthless lifestyle that these gangsters lead. This particularly tense scene takes place at a club where Henry's hanging out with Tommy and all their friends. Henry calls Tommy a quote, funny guy, when laughing at his story, which seems to make Tommy upset. Tommy becomes increasingly more upset, and which causes the laughter at the table to die down, and everyone begins to tense up. Then Tommy busts out laughing, admitting he was only messing with Henry, and the rest of the table begins laughing again. The soft shadows cast on Joe Pesci's face add much more emotion and intimidation to Tommy when he begins questioning Henry, and the warm reddish orange glow from the table lamp adds a feeling of aggression behind Tommy's words. You can see the tempers rising on screen because of it. This scene is an important example of foreshadowing also because it foreshadows Tommy's character and how unstable and short-tempered he can be, which is brought back with the lighting later on at certain points. Um, High key lighting for this scene would get rid of all the tension and make Tommy seem less intimidating than the way it turned out, which would cause it to be much less effective in the long run. Another example would be the poker scene where Tommy shoots Spider for the second time. The lighting stays consistent like the scene before, low key with soft shadows. One difference is that this time the color is more neutral. Uh, in this scene, Tommy's making fun of Spider's foot that he shot the last time they were there. This causes Spider to talk back. Uh, I wish I had the full scene to show, but when Tommy leans back after Spider insults him, a secondary light that Jimmy was blocking shines on the right side of Joe Pesci's face, and it creates a hard shadow. And everyone else still has soft shadows from that primary light over the table. And Tommy sits in silence, and the tension and anger building in him is shown with that solid, hard edged shadow on the side of his face until eventually his emotions get the better of him and he shoots Spider dead. Um, Scorsese, I think, uses the shadow here to indicate that Tommy's emotions because he's the only one who's offended and he's the only one who really uh, knows he's offended. Everyone else is laughing it off. Um, at the club, the red light was used because Tommy made everyone feel uneasy, but here he's the only one affected. Another similar example I like is when Henry, Tommy, and Jimmy open the trunk with Billy Bats inside. The three had jumped Billy at a bar after he disrespected Tommy, and after thinking they had killed him, they stuff him in the trunk of Henry's car until they hear thumping on the road and they're forced to pull over and finish the job. Again, here, low key lighting with the red rear lights of the car serving as the main light source. The bright lead, or the bright red from the light splits Henry's face right down the middle, creating an emphasis on his expression and directing your eyes. The red light bathes over the three of them as they look down at Billy Bats, almost as if they're being coated in sin or quite literally having Bats' blood on their hands. It could also serve as more foreshadowing for the consequences that the three face later on for killing Billy Bats.